Greetings to everybody here on YouTube. I'm Christian Toth. Um, the Toth stands for Tired of the Hypocrisy. And I've decided to come onto YouTube and share some of my experiences with becoming a Christian and leaving the Watchtower Society and Jehovah's Witnesses. A little foreground. Um, I wasn't born in, as I hear a lot of the folks on YouTube mention, they were born into the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. My folks came into it in the late 1960s, right when they started and with their heavy push on Armageddon coming in 1975, and they basically scared the hell out of my parents and said that their little kids were all going to die at Armageddon if they didn't join Jehovah's organization. So my folks studied, and in short order they were baptized and indoctrinated into the Watchtower cult. For several years the family ran kind of hot and cold with it. My dad was a very uh, um, serious student of the Bible, and he would hear things from the platform that didn't jibe with what he had read in the Bible, and we would cool off for a while, and then right around memorial time, the congregation elders would come by and say, oh, well, the memorial's coming up, we got to go at least to that, and then we'd be back in it for another few months, and then my dad and mom would smell more BS, and we'd end up leaving again for a while. So it was, by no means were we a very heavily dedicated Watchtower family, but that's what we were raised in. My folks tried to do their best raising kids, that were becoming teenagers and pretty much giving everybody a hard time, but that was the basics of our spiritual background, was basically Watchtower. Um, I found that there's, over the years, the way my family was treated, individual family members, the way they were treated, individuals in the congregation, the way they were treated, I fairly early on got an idea that this was not the truth as they claim it to be. And as time went by, I discovered the truth about the truth. I hear a lot of people on YouTube calling it TAT, T-T-A-T, the truth about the truth. And the truth about the truth is that they do not have biblical truth in the Jehovah's Witnesses. A lot of inconsistencies, a lot of flip-flop doctrines, a lot of different kinds of in really inconsistent teachings, anti-biblical teachings, even say shunning practices, restoration to the congregation after being disfellowshipped doesn't follow a biblical model. And so, so I decided, I've seen some videos on here, I've been to some websites, some forums, and I thought that I would add my 2 cents to the mix, give you my perspective after, wow, 40 years experience in and out of the Watchtower. Over the years, I finally came to the realization that I'm just going to not return to it. Haven't been disfellowshipped, I haven't disassociated myself. I'm not going to play the Watchtower's game. I just quit going. And my wife, she's a very faithful person. She loves God, and her family is very, very much uh, deeply rooted in this cult. And so I'm afraid for her, if my identity becomes public knowledge out here, that they will attack her. And as unfair as that sounds, most of you that are out there and understand this group of people, that's probably exactly what they'll do. They'll try and pressure her. you know she has her doubts. She was raised a certain way, and like me, the two of us have seen changes in the organization over decades. And so she has her doubts, but at the same time, um, she's holding to her faith, and I respect her. I love her very much, and there's nothing going to change that. But I do want to protect her from the wrath of her family members, you know. It's a sad situation. We have a son here living with us still. Um, our older son was disfellowshipped for asking too many questions, which is pretty messed up in my estimation. On this first video, I guess I'll touch on something that set the gears in motion for me to start moving away from the Watchtower. It was when my father passed away. See, my dad, he was of the anointed class. He was a member of the 144,000 partakers at the memorial. And because he didn't announce this before 1935, he was pretty much demonized for daring to partake of the emblems at the memorial. They treated him really bad, and they kind of snickered behind his back, and they really were just horrible about him. In fact, when he was dying in the hospital, the memorial was getting very close, and the congregational elders stopped by and they said, well, if he's still here in the hospital, we'll bring the emblems to him a week after the memorial, or a month after the memorial. That way it'll be valid then. And that didn't sound biblical to me. I thought the memorial was all about Christ and his brothers. And here they were going to deny him a chance to partake of the symbolic wine and bread. And so some calls were made, and another congregational elder called and said, don't worry, if your elders decline to take him the emblems on Memorial Night, one of our elders will be there and we will take care of it. So, you know, that was a little more palatable at the time. But eventually my dad did die before the memorial, so all that was for nothing. What was really off-putting, the elders were really of no consolation to any of our family members after my dad passed away. It was a very hard time for us. It was really quite devastating for my mom especially, but us kids too. I mean, we were suffering a very deep loss. And we had the memorial service at the Kingdom Hall. And after the talk, they gave a very nice talk. Mentioned a few snippets of information about my dad, but most of it, as most of you can probably understand, it was basically a Watchtower talk on resurrection. And so at the end, you know, several of the members of the congregation were filing by and offering condolences, and pretty soon here comes the presiding overseer. And he stepped up to my mom and said he was sorry. And stepped up to me and said he was sorry. And then he stepped up to my brother. Now my brother, he was already cooling off to the Watchtower. I'll get into it in another video, the specifics of his situation, but he had had his privileges removed for no good reason, without any kind of due process at all. And he was waning at meeting attendance now and field service. And so the presiding overseer steps up to him, extends his hand out. My brother accepts his hand and they shake hands. And he didn't say, I'm sorry that your dad died or anything like that. Nothing in that vein of thought. He just said to him, what you need is a Bible study, as he's shaking his hand. And my brother just let go of his hand, and He said, really, a Bible study? Wow. Thanks for telling me that. Really appreciate it. And, it was the next day, I think. Um, we got a call at home, and it was the presiding overseer saying he wanted to stop by and see us. And I said, okay, whenever you want to come. He showed up with a really young kid. He's a ministerial servant / elder wannabe / flunky type. I guess he was around 22, maybe 24 years old. Not an older man, as the Bible says that an elder should be, but he was looking for elder at such a young age anyway. Went there, and my wife called me from downstairs. She said, the elders are here to see you. And so I went downstairs, and she ran upstairs to take care of the kids up there. And I asked the brothers there if they wanted anything to drink or any refreshment, and they said no. And so we sat down, and the first thing out of the presiding overseer's mouth was, we just stopped by. We wanted to make sure you were doing okay, that you were on track, and that you make sure that you understand that you're not supposed to be praying to your dad. Praying to my dad. Yeah, that's a good one. And I said, repeat that last part again. And he said, we're here to make sure that you're not supposed to be praying to your dad. And I said, yeah. I said, I know I'm not supposed to pray to my dad. That's what you guys came here to tell me. You come into my home and you insult me right after my dad passes away, and this is what you've come to say. And I mean, these guys, both of them were under 6 foot tall and under 165, 170 pounds. And at that time, I was a pretty decent sized guy. I was 6'2" and about 240 pounds. And I just leapt out of my chair. And I told both of you, get the hell out of my house. And they both looked really astonished. And I said, get up before I throw you out. And so they stood up, and one of them headed for the door. He even forgot his book bag. And I grabbed his book bag and I flung it at him, and it went past him and hit his car. I told him, I said, don't come back to my house ever again. I said, you come back again, you'll end up in the hospital. My wife comes running down the stairs. She goes, what happened? And I said, I threw the elders out of here. And she was just looking really surprised, and I said, I'll tell you about it later. And they drove away. Kind of embarrassed about behaving that way now that I think about it. As a Christian, I probably shouldn't have behaved that way, but that was pain talking, that was frustration talking. And given the fact that we had spent so many years with the Watchtower, I really didn't have an actual Christian foundation laid for me. I wasn't spirit-filled. I wasn't really allowed to partake of any of the New Covenant at all, so I really had no Christian background whatsoever. So, I think about it now, it's rather embarrassing, but, that's who I was then. Anyway, I will be putting other videos up and discussing different individual topics as they come to mind. And wish you all a good day, and hope all is well with you. Take care for now. Bye-bye.